Are you ready to set your authentic self free? Welcome to Your Unapologetic Life, the podcast with me, Morgan Barkus. This podcast is full of my personal stories, advice, and strategies, as well as book recommendations to help you ditch comparison and society's standards for us women so you can finally reveal who you truly are. Are you ready to live out loud? Let's get this party started. Do you ever feel frustrated when you're vulnerable and you share with someone, I feel sad? And the person says, well, why? What's making you feel sad? Sadness isn't always precipitated by some sort of situation or circumstance or experience. Sometimes it just is. And there is no explanation. I listened to a podcast. I'm a big fan, as you'll probably pick up listening to my podcast, the podcast with Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and sister called We Can Do Hard Things. And let me look. So it's episode 283. And it is called How Glennon Transforms Sadness into Power. And listening to the podcast, I've listened to it several times now because I thought, yes, preach Glennon. Because she was talking about sadness not being circumstantial or even your state. It's not like you are sad. It's just a place that's always inside of you. It's not like it comes and it goes or it's, triggered by one certain thing. It's a room in the house, just like joy is a room in the house. Sadness is a room in the house that you sometimes visit. And it's the brave people that go into that room and just kind of sit around sometimes in that room. And she read a poem on the podcast that, if you're so inclined, I would recommend. It is the 8th letter from a book called Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke, Rilke. And I'm not going to read it to you because absolutely you can go and listen to the podcast because, like I said, Glennon reads the letter and you can also find it online. I bring it up because the message I took from that letter was sadness is necessary. When you go into that room and you visit, it's because something is shifting in you. Something is happening, something new. And if you didn't rummage around in that room occasionally, you wouldn't grow. And the reason the whole topic even came up is because on this podcast episode, someone had called in and left a voicemail to the podcast host saying, overall, I'm a really happy person and my life is quite grand. And yet there are times I feel sad. Basically, how do I get rid of that? Or how do I still accept that part of me? And that's when Glennon was talking about that sadness isn't something that goes through you or, comes and goes. It's just something that's always there. And the more vulnerable people, the people that love to feel all the feelings, aren't afraid of the room, and they go in that room and muck around a little bit at times. And I was thinking about my worst times because there is that room in my house. And I thought, I am one of those people. I dated someone once and he was like, "Man, you have all the feelings. Like, you feel all the feelings and you have to talk about all the feelings. And every time you feel something, you say that you're feeling those feelings." And it was, and it also reminds me, if you're a Harry Potter fan, which I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, when Hermione's trying to explain to Ron and Harry how Cho is feeling, and she's feeling all these different feelings, and basically Hermione's like, saying this, that, and the other, and she's feeling this because of this, and she's feeling that because of that, and then she's torn because of this, and Ron is like, uh, "There's no way anybody could feel all those feelings," and she said, "Well, just because you have the capacity of a teaspoon in terms of your feelings and emotions doesn't mean everybody does." And I am one of those people that feels all the feelings. I mean, there was a reason that I got into personal development and watched Oprah and wanted to read the books that were recommended and ended up going to graduate school, for therapy, and spent 3 years reading and writing papers about myself and the ton of introspection that was basically required to get a degree in therapy. I like that stuff. I want to excavate all the feelings, and I want to be with people to help them do that as well, because they're there. So why are we ignoring them? Why are we not processing them? It's something that if you ignore, it just gets worse, kind of thing. And or you feel ashamed of it, and a lot of people aren't encouraged to feel all the feelings. I'm saying, one, sadness is not a bad thing. Two, it's in all of us. It is literally a room in our house. And the courageous people that are willing to be vulnerable and go there and feel the feelings, go and muck around in that room occasionally. And when someone says, "Well, why? Why are you sad? What happened?" You can say, "Nothing. I went in the room and I spent some time, and I don't know exactly, and I just feel sad." And it's okay. That's wonderful. You're exploring all the capacities that make you a human being. And then also reflect on what it could mean. Like I said, years ago, the darkest time for me was probably college. It was the first time I was away from home, so I wasn't around my loved ones, and felt very alone. Before I went away to college, my mom would find me randomly crying throughout the house, and she's like, "Why are you crying? What is going on?" And one of the times I remember in particular, I said, "Mom, who's going to hug me?" There were just things that being away from loved ones was very difficult for me. And the stress of school and expectations, and you're sort of an adult but you're not really an adult, and I just felt a lot of feelings when I was in college, and I was downright depressed. It was the darkest time of my life, or one of the darkest times, and I learned a lot from it and because of it. And it was something new in my life that was shifting inside of me that moved me into the next chapter. So I encourage you to not try to push away sadness or deny it. You don't even have to explain it away. Just sit in the room with the sadness, and ask, like, why am I here right now? What do I need from this right now? What are you trying to show me? And what is my next move? Listen to the episode 283, We Can Do Hard Things. Go find that letter by Rilke and read that and see how it impacts you. And don't think of sadness as a bad thing. It's just one of the many rooms in your house. And those who are courageous go into that room and poke around every once in a while to see what they can take away, what they can learn from what the room has to offer. Thanks again for being here. Are you open to doing me a favor? Please hit that plus sign to follow this podcast, rate and review, and then share this podcast with at least one woman in your life that you care about.